The Opel Senator B was the second generation of Opel's flagship executive saloon, produced from 1987 to 1993. It was developed on the Opel Omega's platform, which was introduced in 1986, but it stretched in length and fitted only with six-cylinder engines. Compared to the Omega, it was more luxurious, refined, and technologically advanced. The Senator line succeeded, as said before in previous videos, Opel's older KAD models, including the Captain, Admiral, and the Diplomat. And when the Senator B was discontinued in 1993, its place as Opel's flagship was taken by the Omega B. The exterior design of the Senator B reflected the late 1980s and early 1990s. Clear straight lines and a serious executive appearance. The saloon body featured a long bonnet or hood, upright proportions, and a conservative three-box design. Chrome details were available on higher trims, while overall styling was discreet and formal, appealing to business and government buyers. And in October 1989, 2 years after the introduction, the Senator B received a facelift that gave the car a fresher, more modern appearance. Some of the updates included a new front end with smoother headlights and a redesigned grille, revised bumpers with integrated fog lights, a wider, flatter rear lights, subtle aerodynamic improvements to reduce wind noise, and basically these changes helped the Senator maintain a competitive, contemporary look into the early 1990s. Inside, the Senator B placed emphasis on comfort and prestige. Buyers could choose between plush cloth or high quality leather upholstery, complemented by genuine walnut veneer trim on dashboard and doors. The interior was roomy, with generous rear legroom and thick soundproofing for quiet cruising. Features included heated front and optional rear seats, cruise control, electronic trip computer, which was especially at that time in the 1980s and 1990s quite impressive, and also automatic climate control, which was also impressive. The CD model was the most luxurious, with nearly every available option fitted as standard. And also the facelift of October 1989 brought updates to the cabin. As a new steering wheel and minor trim improvements were made, a better electronic equipment and refinements to cruise control also were delivered, and there was an update to the upholstery fabrics and refined a new and modern feel. And these upgrades, combined with a new 3-liter 24-valve engine introduced at the same time, made the 1989 facelift a key moment in the Senator B's life cycle. All Senator B models were powered by smooth-running inline-six petrol engines or a 4-cylinder diesel engine, which was turbocharged. And they ranged from a 2.3 liter for the diesel to a 2.5 liter to 4 liters for the petrol engines, paired with either a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic. The most powerful models rivaled contemporary BMW and Mercedes offerings in performance, and it all started with a 2.5i available between 1987 to 1990, and this engine was taken directly out of the Senator A, and was used mostly for export, as well as just some models having the same engine but still in the same country. As this engine, basically, as said before, was the exact same as the Senator A and also had the same output, as it had 138 horsepower and 205 Nm of torque, giving the car a 0 to 100 time of 11 to 12 seconds. The lower 0 to 100 time always is for the 5-speed manual, and the higher is for the 4-speed automatic. And the top speed of this engine was 200 to 205 km an hour. In this case, the 200 km an hour was for the 4-speed automatic, and the 205 km an hour was for the 5-speed manual. Also, the fuel consumption was quite decent, 9.8 to 10.4 liters per 100 kilometers, 9.8 for the 5-speed manual, and 10.4 for the 4-speed automatic. But this engine eventually was succeeded in 1990 by a 2.6i, which was available up until the end of 1993. This engine had a bit more power at 148 horsepower to 220 Nm of torque, giving the car a bit better 0 to 100 time of 10.3 to 11.3 seconds and also a higher top speed of 208 to 213 kilometers an hour. The fuel consumption, because of the engine being a bit bigger, also was a bit higher at 10.4 to 10.5 liters per 100 kilometers, but this engine overall suited the measurements of the car better and delivered better power overall for better specifications. Between 1987 to 1993, you also had a 3-liter 12-valve engine, and this engine basically also was taken out of the Senator A, as this was also basically already in there in the Senator A. This had 156 horsepower and 230 newton meters, and delivered a 0 to 100 time between 10 to 10.8 seconds, being not that much smoother than the 2.6i. The top speed was between 210 to 215 kilometers an hour, and the fuel consumption was yet again a bit higher than the 2.6i, between 10.8 to 10.9 liters per 100 kilometers, and this engine basically was fitted without a catalytic converter. You also had a more powerful 3-liter 12-valve engine, also without a catalytic converter, available between 1987 to 1993, and this had 174 horsepower, 240 newton meters of torque, and a 0 to 100 time of between 9 to 10.5 seconds. Top speed therefore also was higher, between 210 to 220 kilometers an hour, and the fuel consumption was lower actually, between 9.9 to 10.2 liters per 100 kilometers. Eventually, with the facelift of October 1989, you received a new top of the line, this time being the 3-liter 24-valve, available up until 1993. This had 201 horsepower, 270 newton meters of torque, giving the car a 0 to 100 time much lower than any other engine, between 7.8 to 8.8 seconds, also having a much higher top speed of 235 to 240 kilometers an hour. In my opinion, this actually had a pretty decent fuel consumption of 10.3 to 10.4 liters per 100 kilometers, which actually weirdly enough was comparable to the 2.6i. The top of the line, which actually a lot of people couldn't even get, was the 4-liter 24-valve made by Irmscher, and this basically had between 272 to 295 horsepower, with the torque being around 395 newton meters, and this insane amount of power gave the car a very good 0 to 100 time of 6.5 to 6.8 seconds, and the top speed was actually estimated to be around 260 to 270 kilometers an hour, and the fuel consumption, in my opinion, actually was quite decent, since the engine was a liter bigger at 4 liters, but this was actually 12 to 14 liters per 100 kilometers. Besides these petrol engines, as said before, you also had a 2.3 liter turbo diesel engine. In the Senator A, this was already used, and you also had the Comfrex diesel, which was basically a supercharged diesel engine. But the Senator B actually only used a turbo diesel engine, and this had 89 horsepower, 190 newton meters of torque, giving the car a 0 to 100 time between 14.5 to 16 seconds and a top speed of 176 km an hour. The fuel consumption therefore also was lower than with the petrol models, at 7.6 to 7.7 liters per 100 kilometers. And as said before, this was already used in the Senator A, but had a bit more power. The most prestigious version of the Senator B, as said before, was the Senator CD, which included walnut wood trim, leather upholstery, advanced electronic suspension, and sophisticated automatic transmissions, with many more options available. Another important addition was produced by Irmscher, and as said before, this was the 4-liter 24-valve engine, Opel's longtime tuning and styling partner. Irmscher offered factory-backed modifications that made the Senator B faster and more distinctive, basically being a somewhat Vauxhall Lotus Omega, or Vauxhall Lotus Carlton and Opel Lotus Omega. and these included a aerodynamic body kits with sportier bumpers and side skirts, larger alloy wheels and lower suspension for a more aggressive stance, and performance upgrades including the 4-liter 24-valve engine with up to 295 horsepower, making these cars some of the fastest executive saloons of their day. And basically, these cars also had distinctive Irmscher badging and interiors with sports seats and unique trim. And the Irmscher Senators were rare and very expensive, but they helped raise the model's image amongst enthusiasts. And besides these impressively powerful Irmschers, you also had several police forces in the UK and mainland Europe operating Senator B models, modified for high speed pursuit with upgraded suspension, radios, and lighting. The Senator B was not even close to being as successful as the Senator A and was basically only produced between 1987 to 1993, being 2 years shorter than the Senator A's production line, with only 69,943 units made, in contrary to the around 140,000 units made for the Senator A. Although the Senator B was praised for comfort and refinement, it faced tough competition in the executive car market, which it simply couldn't handle, in my opinion. Main competitors of this car included the BMW 5 Series and somewhat the Mercedes-Benz E-Class W124. In my opinion, the S-Class not so much, as well as the 7 Series, because they offered bigger engines from BMW and Mercedes-Benz themselves. These cars basically had stronger brand prestige, which limited the Senator's success despite its advanced features it had at the time. And the Opel Senator B followed the first generation Senator A and indirectly replaced the Opel Diplomat B because it was somewhat the same measurements. And the Opel Omega, introduced in 1986, 1 year prior to the Senator B, was originally positioned as the smaller sibling to the Senator, and it succeeded the record A in the upper midsize segment. But when the Senator B was discontinued in 1993, Opel chose to not develop a new standalone flagship. Instead, the Opel Omega B took over as the brand's largest and most luxurious model, effectively becoming the Senator's successor in the lineup. And this meant that Opel consolidated its executive class offerings into one car line, with the Omega B covering both upper midsize segment and the executive market segment. Thank you for watching this video. In order to be able to upload more videos in the future, please consider becoming a member of my channel or sending a super thanks on this video. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, and don't forget to check out this playlist with many interesting videos covering various parts of the automotive industry, and I will see you in the next video.